All right.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Congratulations on being a star consultant and enjoying our first ever cooking class. I love that we're all over the US and getting to cook with executive chef Owen. And Owen and his sister, many of you guys may know Jesse Nichols. They were born and raised in Yellowstone National Park. Owen has a degree in film and media arts, and he cooked in Los Angeles for 7 years. And now he manages a local co-op, specifically the prepared foods department. And Owen, you are in Montana now, correct?
I am. I am indeed. I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to give the floor to you, and we
Okay.
thank you very much. Yes, thanks.
Awesome. Really excited to be here. First, I want to just clear up a little confusion. With the recipe sheet that I sent out originally, I did absolutely forget to include a few vegetables. They're not super necessary to the dish, but hopefully you guys were able to get those kind of last minute additions to our shopping list. If that wasn't something that you were able to do, we can either search your fridge right now for anything that looks like it might be good, or we can just make it the way that it's intended on that original sheet. I think one of the most important things that I'd like to teach you guys today about cooking is that there aren't any rules. There are suggestions, there are guidelines, there are mistakes, certainly, but there are no rules, really. There are, well, I'm sure I'll contradict that in a few minutes. Let's get started. I guess I would say before we get going, hopefully everybody was able to find everything that they needed on that shopping list. I was unable to get head-on prawns in Montana, which is not a big surprise considering that for prawns to get to me, they need to be frozen for a long time. But I did end up with some really nice black tiger prawns, but they are already head off, but they're shell on. These are 810s, which means 8 to 10 of them make a pound. I'm not sure if you guys were able to get shell on, head on, or P&V shrimp, we call them, peeled and deveined. Either way, what we're going to do with the shrimp is going to be exactly the same. All right, I generally kind of leave this open for people to ask questions if that's something you guys are interested in. If not, I can totally just diatribe at you guys for a really long time. So the first thing that we should probably do is get our vegetables ready. We're going to get our veggie prep going first. Once we start cooking, as soon as we get on the heat here, we're actually only going to be on there for like, I don't know, 5-6 minutes tops, and then we're going to be eating. So really most of the work that we're going to be doing today is in our preparation and in learning of some mindset kind of ideas that we can use to apply this kind of learning to every single meal we make. Because in a perfect world, I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, and I don't cook much at home anymore. This is the way to pull it off, because I know your guys' lives are probably 10 times busier than my own, and that is certainly saying something. So we've selected our ingredients for today, but generally we can just be kind of looking around in the refrigerator. So we have our shrimp. First thing we need to do is get some aromatics. So for aromatics, we're going to get garlic, classic. We're going to use shallots, which is essentially a garlic onion, like if the 2 had a baby. And we're actually foregoing onion in this case for this. This has got a much more delicate flavor than a red onion, say, normally would add into a dish. So first thing you need to do with garlic is peel it. Maybe you bought peeled garlic. Maybe garlic was on the original list and so it wasn't on the original list, so now you don't have it. Either way, I'll kind of show you what we're going to do here. I do apologize. I don't have a camera angle that's a little bit closer to what I'm doing on my cutting board. But I'm just pulling a few of these cloves out. So I just have a few garlic cloves. And the best way to get these peeled is to not drop them on the floor. I can tell you that. The best way to get these peeled is to set them on the cutting board and then use the flat of your knife like this. Peel your hand till you hear it crunch. That crunch right there will release the skin of the garlic clove fairly simply. So you can just pull it from the skin in one whole piece like that. We don't want to squish it into a paste. We just want to crush it enough for this paper to release. So we'll do that to these. I have 3 cloves because I'm only making enough shrimp for me. and probably my wife. I know my kids aren't gonna have any prawns. I offered. I'm not all that surprised that they turned me down. We'll get 3 of these cloves. Just peel that skin right off of there. This is just a compost bucket. You can do whatever you'd like with your trash. I like to keep the organics into compost because I like to garden, whatever you got to do. 3 garlic cloves. I'm very glad that we have an opportunity to learn some things today. I really, really do. Thanks for joining. We're going to start with mincing our garlic. There's a couple ways that you can mince garlic. In fact, there's probably a couple ways that you can do absolutely everything that we're doing in the kitchen. So don't feel bad if the technique that you've learned isn't the one that I'm going to use, because the technique you've learned is probably the one that works for you, and that's probably okay too. We want to make sure that we're holding our knife properly. What you want to do is find the balance point for the knife. You'll see on most knives, it's right where the tang meets the edge of the blade here. On this nice Victorinox knives, it gives you a spot for your finger right about there. That's generally going to be your balance point. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is use that part of the knife as a fulcrum. Okay. We keep our knife on the board. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do any scraping like this. I do these things sometimes, but that's not good technique. We're going to keep our knife blade edge down on the board, and we're going to run it like a train. You know, like the inside of a locomotive, like the part that moves the wheels. Chicka, chicka, choo, choo. Yeah, get it. I apologize. That is how we're going to run our knife. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go through this garlic in 2 directions. We're going to go through it in the first direction like this. We have our hand and our knife like this. Our fingers are curled so that we're not going to get our fingers, but our fingers also allow us to steady this knife so we know exactly where it is at all times. If you lose the knife, you'll notice I don't need to look at what I'm doing because my fingers are telling me where the knife is. All right, so then we'll rotate it around. You should look at what you're doing, please. And so then we're going to go through it one more time. Yeah. Get it into a nice little ball. And now, just because I want it super duper fine, we can get in here, get a hand right on top of here, and just run right through here. Beautiful. So we'll do this to all of our garlic cloves really quickly. Just so that we've got a nice little bit of minced garlic. Nothing too fancy. We don't want it to disappear into the dish, but you know, I might be one of the few people on planet Earth that likes to eat like giant pieces of garlic. So if you have guests over at the house, make sure that you're thinking about everybody else. My general rule of thumb is if the recipe says to add garlic, add twice as much. Don't do that with my recipes because I've already accounted for that. So we have some garlic for our aromatics. I'm just going to pop this right into this bowl here. And this is what we're going to use to just kind of collect our aromatics. Next thing we're doing is a shallot. So shallots are like little onions. They have the same kind of layers going on in them that they're much more dense and they're more oblong. So they're a little more difficult to deal with because of their shape. There's a few quick, easy things that we're going to do to make this easier, one of which is known as a French cut. And if I could stop dropping food on the ground, that would be super helpful. Let me grab another one. Okay. So a French cut we use on onions as well is to go through this direction. Okay, so we're going to go through the length of the shallot, and then we're going to go through the width of the shallot this way, and then we'll come back across it, and then it'll be really, really small. Hopefully that made some sense. I do apologize. So the first thing we want to do when we're putting our French cuts in is keep our food flat on the board, keep our knife flat to the board, and then we're cutting across. We want to get 3 of these cuts from top to bottom, right? From bottom to top. And so they're very thin cuts, and we're not going all the way through. We're going to stop with about a 1/4 inch, maybe even less, left on the root end, because we want this to stay in one piece. So to get 3 cuts, you only put your knife in twice, right? 1, 2, 3. So we've done that now. And if I kind of push this open, you'll notice that I've got 3 cuts that are going down the center, but it's still connected in the back. Those cuts stop right here. Now we're going to do the same thing the other direction across the top of it. And we want these ones to be nice and thin. So you can use your finger to kind of guide them across. Use the very tip of the knife. Pull those through. And now you can see what our kind of end result is. So we've got a bunch of matchsticks that are connected to this root. So now that we've got a bunch of matchsticks connected to the root, we do the exact same thing we did with the garlic. And we do this as thinly as we possibly can, right? Like we really want to make sure that we're not taking a lot of shallot. Because if we take very, very little on each slice, we will end up with shallots like that. That's what you're looking for. If you cut shallots a little bit larger, you'll be able to see them in your sauce, and maybe that's what you want. But for the most part, in classic French cooking, anyway, like I said, there are no rules. In classic French cooking, you want to cut these very small because they are to disappear and to not be noticed in the sauce. I like onions and garlic a whole lot, so honestly, I could just chop up a red onion and it would probably be just as good for me, but I'm just going to try to show you guys kind of the classical technique there. So one shallot is going to be good for me. If you are cooking enough if you're going to cook a whole pound of shrimp, and you want other people to eat it, I'm going to eat the whole pound to myself. You might want a little bit more shallot, a little bit more garlic than 3 cloves to 1 head. But that is what I'm going to be using today. And you'll see that this ends up as right around a 1/4 cup combined. The other thing you'll probably notice today, and I super apologize if it frustrates you, I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking about measurements. Measuring is so important in baking. It is pretty important in cooking. Okay, but we can always do things to adjust and fix and kind of, you know, come up with something new, right? You're not gonna ruin a dish unless you do one of two, maybe 2 or 3 terrible mistakes, like too much salt. You know, salt, you can always add more salt. You can't take salt out. You can try. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, honestly, baking is so hard. I'm a terrible baker too. I once made a lemon pound cake for someone for their birthday, and I think it was like a 12 or 15 pound cake. It was definitely heavier than both my children combined. So don't listen to me for baking advice. However, for cooking, a general measurement works really, really well. Okay, so now that we got those, that is literally the base of our aromatics, right? That's what's really going to drive out some flavor. So the next thing that I want to do is just get some more of our veggies ready. I'm going to grab some celery. This is one of the things that was not on your list originally, and I do apologize very much for that. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways to cook, and so there's also a lot of different ways to enjoy this exact meal. The one I happened to write down was focused on really good bread and no vegetables, so I do apologize about that. When we're cutting celery, I like to see it. So I'm not gonna mince this up. I'm not gonna dice this up. I'm not gonna try to get rid of it. What does that say? Yes, you had celery in your refrigerator. Awesome. That makes me very happy. I hope most of you guys had some of this laying around. So we're gonna peel the stalks off. We're gonna take off the white ends. I just don't want to deal with washing them. That's really it. You should wash I've already washed my produce. You should wash your produce. Anyway, we're gonna take the whole thing and we're gonna bias cut it. And this is a personal choice for me, but when I'm eating a soup or something with celery, I want to see the horseshoe. I love that little horseshoe. Like if I'm eating chicken noodle soup and I got squares of celery, it doesn't taste as good. It just doesn't have the same flavor. So we're going to get our little horseshoes in here, but we're going to do it at a 45-degree angle across the celery. We're not going to do straight cuts. We're going to be over here on a bias. I'll show you why. The main thing we're doing here is increasing the surface area of the interior of the celery, which will help it sweat faster into the pan, release its flavor faster into the pan, all those things. So we want to make sure that we are cutting on that bias so that the the section through the center is as long as possible. So we get the most surface area. So you'll start off small, but then when you get it to about halfway through this stick, you're going to end up with some really nice looking celery. You can go as thin or as thick as you'd like. I tend to go thin, but that's just because of practice. Definitely don't try to go wafer thin right away. Any questions on that? I'm sorry. I certainly hope that like this is helping in some way. Explain it. Oh, definitely don't cut yourself. Let me slow down here one more time. We'll do one here. I wish I could get that camera closer. I'll do one that's just makes a little more sense. So we're at this angle here. I have my hand cut here, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, right? And each time I can feel that knife come back on my finger, on the other hand. That's how I know where that knife is. Make sense? Cool. That's enough celery for me. Right into here. Nice. Break it up a little bit. Celery's super fibrous. If your knife isn't super duper sharp, or you kind of miss your cut a tiny bit, it might be a little stuck together. Not the end of the world, certainly. Now, when you're first learning that, you definitely may be a little nervous to keep your fingers on a knife like that. So that's okay. Let's just get that claw going. Tuck it in pretty good. You don't have to touch, right? Like we can stay out here. You know, I don't always actually. You should, but you don't need to, right? If we feel safer with our hand back here, we can be back here. The problem is we just don't have as much control over the food. And if we're cutting something that's not celery, you know, celery's got nice little grippy. We're cutting something round, you know, you really do need that control. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is some bell pepper. I got these tiny little sweet bells. Any bell pepper you have, any pepper, chili, anything. Again, this was on the list. I do apologize. I wish I had full bell peppers so I could show you a really cool way to break them down, but I'll try to show you the same technique here on these mini peppers. The first thing we're going to do is just take the stem end off, and I'm okay with leaving a little bit of flesh on the end of that because the underside of it is mostly pith, and I'm not worried about that anyway. Especially since I'm composting, I feel pretty good about doing that. So we've taken one end off. This same technique will work with bell peppers. It'll just be easier because bell peppers are much larger. We take that stem end off, and then we're going to nip off this end as well. We want to make sure with a full-size bell pepper that we're getting like a full cut through, and we're not just scalloping off the little butt ends. We want to make sure we're going all the way through so that there's one full circle. We'll save this piece. This is perfectly good pepper. The next cut goes down the bell pepper, this direction, alongside one of those lines of pith. So when you look at the bottom of your bell pepper, you'll see those. Find one, and then right along it, we're going to work our knife right down through here. Yes, good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. It's definitely the way to do it. Now we can just put our knife in the pepper and unravel it. And when we come around, what we will end up with is just the pith that we didn't want and just the pepper that we did want. It also makes slicing, dicing, julienning, these kinds of things, those cuts become much, much easier after we've done this because we can open the pepper up into a sheet, right? And when you've got a nice open pepper, we can run our knife straight. We don't have to try to run it at an angle in any way. It's a little harder to do on these tiny peppers, but you know what? It's good practice. Certainly, if I was doing this in a restaurant, I would not be using my 8-inch chef's knife to do it, as it's probably not ideal. But again, quick clean, full pepper there. I'll do 2 reds, a yellow, and an orange. I think that'll probably be good for me. Okay, what I would use, most likely, let me show you one second. Okay, so we have our last one. We have our peppers. Put these ones back. I would either use a Santoku, which is this blade shape. The reason why I would do that is because you get more tip control when it's bent down like this. We can work smaller. You can hold a Santoku right here and work very easily like a paring knife. A paring knife would probably be a better choice. Any of those like good chef little guys that are like this would be a great choice for a small pepper like that. In a restaurant, I probably wouldn't grab a paring knife, just to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't feel like I had time. I would just use whatever I had next to me. So I guess I take that back. I probably would use the 8-inch chef knife in a restaurant, even though my knowledge tells me that I shouldn't. Okay, so we have our pepper sheets. I'm gonna lay them out flat, and we're gonna cut 2 of them at a time. We could do all of them, but let's do 2. So we've set them down on top of each other. They're flat. I don't want to do that to you guys. We'll do one at a time. We'll do one at a time. Okay, so anyway, same principle applies either way. We lay it down flat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come through and we're going to julienne it. Okay, so a julienne is this, right? It's not a strip. It's not a slice. It's not a whatever the heck you've seen it called in any recipe ever. This is called a julienne. So we'll go through that nice and thin, get the full julienne, and now we want to keep the pepper together. We can just turn it, and then we go through it one more time this direction. And then we've got really nice sized diced pepper, right? Almost completely a uniform size, but not an entirely uniform size. I'm not that worried about it. I don't have any Michelin stars hanging up on the wall, and I'm guessing you don't. And if you do, I'm very curious as to why you're learning from somebody who's not as good as you. So don't worry about your cut sizes too much. They do matter. They do matter, but not as much as some people may make it out to be. Okay, we are fast approaching cooking. We're almost done, I promise. I know you guys are probably at your limit for listening to my voice. We're almost there. Okay, we've got our peppers. Those are looking delicious. We've got a nice looking color in there. That's the other thing we're really trying to go for, is this color. We eat with our eyes. We eat with our eyes, okay? You've heard that a million times. It's true. We've got some parsley. We'll save that for finishing. I've got my okra. We'll get that out now. That'll be our last vegetable that goes in. And then we are going to get those on the stove, get them sweating. Then we're going to get our dry spices together. Once our dry spices are together, we're going to kind of wham bam and slam through this, because after that, it's all rapid fire until these shrimp are done and we're eating food. So I hope you guys are ready. I got some okra. I was pretty shocked that I was able to find fresh. I was absolutely expecting to find frozen. Whatever veggies you have, this counts as your chopped challenge. Okay, your chopped challenge is, if you like vegetables and wish that they were on the original sheet, find one in your house, chop it up at this point in time, and put it in there. I would say the vegetables to watch out for are, I wouldn't put in any eggplant. Well, besides that, you got mushrooms would be great in here. I mean, not quite part of the Creole cuisine, but man, would they taste good, you know? You could do mushrooms in here, you could do squash in here, anything in that family, zucchini, yellow squash, anything starchy, potatoes even, green beans. If anybody ever says that they want haricots verts, they're talking about green beans. That literally just means green bean in French. So ignore those people. Unless they're talking about the actual haricot vert from, then it's like champagne, kind of, right? The French did everything first. We're just doing them all. Okay, we're gonna get our okra in here as well. Boop. Perfect. My goodness. This is gonna be fantastic. Okay. I think we're ready to get our stuff sweating. So I have butter on the list. This is when we're gonna use a little bit of that. Normally, when I'd sweat vegetables, I would use olive oil. I have some olive oil out today. I'm gonna be using it for my sourdough bread. You can use it for in your pan right now instead of butter if you'd like. But the extra milk solids that we get from butter are gonna help us make this sauce into kind of a more unctuously rich kind of broth rather than a more olive oily kind of taste. So we're gonna take butter. We're not gonna measure it. I'm gonna say about a tablespoon. Okay, we're gonna pop this right in here. 1 square of butter right in the center of our pan. Any nonstick pan will do. I'm using this really sad excuse for a wok that I probably got at some Walmart or something. But if you have a nice nonstick, now's the time to bust it out. If you're not on a gas range, I'm sorry. This can be done. You do not need gas to cook well, but you have to be very careful because the difference here is the heat dispersion, right? A really, really nice pan will do better on an electric coil than a cheap one because a cheap one will let the heat of the coil straight up through it instead of dispersing it around the bottom of the pan. That's why I like a lot of saucepans you see. For an example, come with this banded bottom. This whole thing is designed to ensure that when we're heating up the bottom of this pan, we heat this plate in its entirety first, and then we transfer heat up through it. Okay, sorry, that was waiting for my buttermilk with Owen. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, we've got a little bit of melted butter. So we're gonna let that get as close to brown as we can without actually letting it brown. And then we're immediately gonna hit in our vegetables. When you see that butter start to smoke a little bit, it starts to get to its smoke point, you're about to lose your butter solids. So now is the time to put it in there. If you're expecting a big whoosh from your pan, that only happens when you use oil. Or if you overheat your butter, I guess. But it'd be burnt at that point. Okay, so we got our veggies in here. We're just gonna let these go for a little bit. Occasional stir, right? We wanna make sure that these veggies have all the time in the world to do what they need to do. But what we really want them to do is release their moisture and start to build a fond in the bottom of the pan. And to do that, to facilitate it, we're gonna add a little salt at this point. I use a blend of kosher salt and pink Himalayan salt. Kosher salt is your best friend. It's the one you should use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm just gonna mix this Himalayan in so I can make sure I'm getting both. I'd say about 2 teaspoons of salt at this point. Salt is going to draw the moisture directly out of those veggies, allowing them to do the process known as sweating. Kosher salt. Good question. A lot of kosher, so I use kosher salt in everything, generally as a personal preference. But the reason behind that isn't its kosher nature, it's the salt crystal structure. Kosher salt, does not have rounded crystals like an iodized salt does, like a Morton salt. It's going to have like a square or more cube-like crystal shape, whereas kosher salt has a very sharp crystal. So when you're doing like a dry rub on some steak, when you're salting your steak, you know, letting it rest, that kosher salt's going to get in there more. It's going to pull more moisture out. It's just going to be better. Pink Himalayan I like for the mineral content. So I just mix the two together. Okay. These are starting to smell pretty good over here. So we're going to get our dry spices together quickly. I'm starting here. This is paprika. Okay. I'm using a smoked paprika. I have 1 teaspoon in here. And then after that, I'm going to grab myself a little spoon, a little baby spoon for some black pepper in here to taste. Okay. You guys can use these to taste. I would say a teaspoon is our goal. No more than a teaspoon, but you can use less if you'd like to. These are Gochujaro chili flakes. These are a Korean chili flake. You can find them in the I hate this word, but they call it the ethnic food aisle. That's where you'll find these chili flakes. Don't spill them all on your cutting board. Get some of them into that bowl. They'll be delicious. The next thing I'm going to do is oregano and bay leaves. Now, I have bay leaves chopped up because I like to use them other than the removal kinds. However, feel free to just slap a full bay leaf in there and then remove it. Okay? I definitely won't begrudge you. A little bit of thyme coming in here as well. Those veggies are starting to sound really nice. And you can see that that celery is starting to soften up. That's really what we're looking for. As soon as it's softened most of the way, that means that most of the sweating process is complete. Good amount of time, maybe double the normal amount. I mean, thyme's a good flavor, right? We can get heavy on some thyme. Again, this is designed to show you that we're not gonna mess this up. I got some cayenne here. I'm gonna try to open it without exploding it all over my face or my kitchen. Apparently, there we go. Ooh. Okay, a little bit of cayenne. Perfect. Now, we're gonna turn around and go straight to our pan here. Don't add any more liquid. This is known as blooming. The spices are going to suck up that moisture immediately, and it's going to smell like it's about to start burning. You want that. You want that for exactly 1 minute. And then we're going to add our chicken stock. Okay? I have 1 mason jar of it. Here we go. Spices in. We get a really good mix on those. Let me get up here. Let me see if I can stand like, I don't know if you guys can see that. So we mix that in, we're blooming. You see that? Now, do you see the spice that's stuck to the pan there? Right here? That is a fond. That's what we want, because when we put the chicken stock in there, that's what's going to release and create this yummy, yummy broth for us. So, back onto the heat to finish my bloom. You're probably done with yours by now. So quickly get that a little bit of that liquid in there. Let that kind of come around. I didn't even use my whole mason jar. We're just trying to make sure that we've got enough. I will add a little more in because we just need enough to cook the shrimp. Okay. That's looking really good. So now you can see how much beautiful, man, I hope you guys can see the color in this pan. It blows my mind how beautiful this dish is, and we're already almost done with it. So right now, I'm gonna kill the heat. I'm gonna kill the heat on that so we can get our bread ready. I went and got a loaf of San Franciscan sourdough. Whatever bread you have is totally fine. I have a bread knife somewhere, I think. There we go. Cut your bread however you'd like to eat it. I like to do big, big wedges because I'm just going to set this bread directly in the bowl. That's how I would serve it in the restaurant, right? So I'm going to cut a restaurant piece. You can certainly cut like a piece of toast or a batard into crostinis and then toast all the crostinis. Don't let your imagination like not run wild. Okay, do whatever you'd like. What I'm going to do here is this delicious sourdough that I've been looking at all day. Oh, and I'm so excited to eat. So I'm right here. I'm a big honking soup chunk of bread, right? That loaf for me is 6 portions, maybe. I'm gonna grab 2 of them for our dish today. Yeah, I'd say about a cup and a half. About a cup and a half, and I reserved some, and I'm also reserving the right to grab a little more. I'm using Better Than Bouillon, which is like it's a pasty bouillon that's really, really good. So this is just hot water and that bouillon mixed together. Certainly buying or making a nice chicken stock will get you a better product. But this Better Than Bouillon is, restaurants everywhere use it because it's as close as you can get without putting in all the effort. So yeah, I'm reserving the right to make more if we need more liquid. Because if we add too much liquid, easy fix, we just reduce it, right? Reduce it down. In fact, adding liquid, reducing is how you make a really good broth anyway, right? So if we reduce too far, that's okay. We can just add some more. We add too much, we reduce it down. Not a big deal. So we kind of have to keep an eye on that during the process. So for our bread, I'm going to use my toaster oven. You can use a broiler. It's really hot in this house because I have all these lights on, and I can't imagine turning on my broiler. I couldn't possibly do it at this moment in time. So I'm going to put them over here. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is get some olive oil. This is a nice finishing olive oil that I really, really like. I like to make a mess when I cook. You certainly don't need to be as messy as I am. In fact, if you clean while you cook, you'll cook faster, I promise. A little bit of olive oil on here. I'm also going to get at it with a little bit of this salt. And then what I want to do with this, actually, I have these sun-dried tomatoes. These are tomatoes that I actually sun-dried. I'm totally cheating because I found these in my spice cabinet with about 2 minutes to go. So I do apologize. But I actually freeze-dried these myself out of my garden. They're like little cherry tomatoes. I'm just going to get some into this bread. I think it'll be good. So I'm just going to crunch a few of those up with my knife. That's part of the reason why we've got olive oil all over the board, because that's going to help us soak these up. If you've never sun-dried anything, there's a whole other lesson we need to do on that, because there's a lot of good ways to permanently hurt yourself if you don't know what you're doing with food when it comes to preserving. Okay, so I'm just rubbing these together. Honestly, rustic cooking. Okay, we got a little bit of that tomato on there. That looks fantastic to me. I say maybe a touch of thyme. I dehydrated them, actually. Yeah, I used the dehydrator. Took about 2.5. Well, no, it didn't. It was at least a day. I don't remember how long the cycle was. I apologize. But yes, I did. Oh yeah, I made my hunks too large for my toaster oven. If I was using a broiler, that wouldn't be an issue. Okay, let's try again. There we go. If I start a sourdough bread fire, at least it'll be on camera. Okay, and then you have to get me a copy of the video for my insurance company. Okay. Now that our bread is toasting, we're really going to start going. Is everybody with me so far? We in a good spot? We ready to cook our shrimp? Shrimp, delicious shrimp, heads on, tails on, doesn't matter. Going in the pan, we're cooking them that way. I'm going to crank this all the way up. I want to let that come all the way back up to a vicious boil. A vicious boil. I don't think I've ever said that before in my life. I'm trying it out. Okay, this bread is already starting to smell fantastic. We have our shrimp. Since I kept my burner on very, very low, I'm already back up to my aggressive boil. I'm going right back in for the first time with our shrimp. Now we want to make sure that we're attending the pan, okay? We want to stir, stir, stir. If you don't have enough liquid to fully submerge these shrimp, we can add a little bit more. You do not need to drown your shrimp in soup. This does not need to be a soup. Shrimp do not need to be fully submerged in order to cook, right? Just enough water in there so that they can, and then stir it. Yeah? So we're going to get a little stir going. We're going to let the bottoms of those shrimps get nice and pink. Then I'm going to give them one big flip, and then we'll be good to go there. So before the shrimp has cooked, this is what we're doing. And then I'll show you the other side of that in a second here. Oh, that looks good. This is generally around the time of the meal where I grab a White Claw. I'm not sponsored by them, but if you're out there listening, I would be. Okay. Bread's looking good. I'm going to pull this bread out. And then we're basically just waiting for these shrimp to finish up the last little bit of their journey to Flavortown. Oh, I can't believe I said that. Oh, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Okay. Oh, man. Now, if you were in your broiler, your bread's probably a little more toasted than mine, but it smells so warm and toasty and delicious. I wish you could smell this right now. Ugh. I should have taken a garlic clove and like smeared a garlic clove on there. See what I'm saying? You always make mistakes. There should be garlic on here. Oh, gonna be good though. Gonna be really good. I'm actually gonna get a utensil for this because I want to make sure that in my excitement for these delicious shrimp, I don't try to look cool and then burn my face. So we're just gonna make sure that all of our shrimp have had some time in this broth because I don't want to make a soup. I'm very much aiming for a consistency that's going to remind you much more of a gumbo than a soup, right? A very thick. But notice we're getting there without any gluten. There's a lot of ways to make thick sauce without using flour, without using a roux. I'm not gluten-free, thank God. Oh, I can't imagine my life if I was. My wife is, not by her choice, 100% real celiac. I've seen what it does to people. So now that I kind of believe that that's an actual real thing, this is one way that you can you can make this dish that is gluten-free by subbing this bread out. This is the only gluten going on here is the bread. You can make gravies without using flour. You can use cornstarch. You can use xanthan gum. You can use arrowroot. You can use potato starch. There's a million different ways for you to kind of thicken up a sauce without using a roux. Just in case that information is helpful to you. Okay. Holy cow, guys. I'm ready to eat. Look at those. I don't know if you guys have smell-o-vision, but goodness. Goodness. I'm going to plate us up one. And then I don't know if it works this way, but if there's any way that you could switch this around so that I could see your guys' food, that would be pretty cool. But if not, I hope you enjoyed your meal. Let's plate this bad boy up. I have some nice stoneware that I'm going to break out today. Why? Because it makes me feel like I'm fancy, even though I am not. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Okay. I'm going to come in here. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to spider out some veggies because that's what I want. I want some veggies on the bottom. You don't have to do this if you don't want, but I always try to plate as if I'm going to hand it to somebody else because that's just how I've been trained. So we'll get that in there. Nice And perfect. Okay. Now look at these beautiful, beautiful prawns. Oh, look at that thing. Oh, I almost dropped it. Oh, gorgeous. This whole video is just sounds of me going, oh, oh. I'm sorry. These are just so good. Okay, we got our nice little pile of shrimp. I'll save a few for my wife, maybe. Get some sauce out over on the top of this. Now, I told you we needed parsley. And this was the only thing we needed it for. So if you want to clean your board off and not ruin your whole bunch of parsley, I can completely understand that. I am just going to tear off only what I need. This is our last knife lesson for the day. I hope you guys are ready for one more lesson. I know there's been so many. This is called a chiffonade. The Worcestershire. Ah, that was supposed to go in the sauce. Let's do that. I'm going to unplate. Watch this. Remember how I said there was no mistakes? There are no mistakes. We're right back on the pan. Well, there are mistakes. There are no rules. I don't know where I'm going with this. Thank you for reminding me, because honestly, without this, it wouldn't have been as good. I love Worcestershire. Oh my goodness. Side note, has fish in it, in case you didn't know that. Let's go with like 2 tablespoons, maybe 3. We also forgot the lemons. Those are coming up next too. Oh my goodness, I forgot everything. Cut a lemon in half, squeeze it, put your hand underneath it so the seeds don't go in your food. Don't do this if you have cuts on your hand. Trust me. 1 lemon directly in, the other 2 are for when you eat it, or you can have wedges, right? So we've got 1 half in, the other half in. Are there any more ingredients I didn't put in? Oh my goodness. Okay. While that sauce is coming back together, I'll teach you a chiffonade real quick. This is the best way to cut leafy greens. Anything that you're doing that's leafy, cilantro, parsley are going to be the 2 that you probably are going to see the most often. Basil works great for it. Any herb, mint, anything, right? We take it, we set it down on the cutting board. We're going to take it and we're going to roll it up into a burrito. Okay, we're going to roll it up into a burrito, right? Like this. And then we're going to pinch the end tight, right? So it's tight together. Our fingers are right on the edge of it. And then while it's all rolled together, we're just going to do that same cut. You notice this is the only thing we need to learn how to do. This is, once we get this motion down, we can do it for pretty much anything. 1 time through gets you a classic French chiffonade, especially if you're using basil, because you have like big curlies, right? Because that leaf rolled up a whole bunch. Parsley doesn't roll up a whole bunch. So I go through it 1 more time, you know, just to make sure it's what we need. Then this is going to go right on top. And then I'm going to save a little bit for the garnish. Okay. Now, you will notice that with the addition of that Worcestershire and the addition of the lemon juice, that sauce has thickened up even more so and now has even more body. Thank you so much to whomever reminded me about those missing ingredients. This would have been a shame to have been plated that way. Okay, so now we're in it. And I'm not going to take quite as much time to plate it because, man, I already wasted the first time. That being said, holy cow, this is going to be good. Oh, all right. So we're going to get a little bit more garnish. I'm going to take my lemon. And I'm just going to get a little garnish for my dish here. You do not need to garnish your plate. However, taking the time to do something simple like this is what's going to make all your friends go, oh my goodness, where did you learn how to do that? You'd be like, I didn't. I made it up today. And last but not least, our bread. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is our dish tonight. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed it. There are some beautiful, beautiful shrimp buried in here. We've got some very, very yummy pasta. Oh. You guys, I could drink that. I could drink that broth. Oh. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. That is all I have for you guys. Any questions at all? I certainly would love to answer a few questions. And then I think it's time to eat. I don't know what you're thinking, Mary. Whatever you guys would like to do, you can take over.
I think this has been amazing. Does anybody want to come off of mute and ask if you have any questions or thank Owen or say anything? Feel free to come off mute.
Thank you. Thank you. I saw that one. I appreciate that, guys. I just want you to really hold on to the fact that like you can cook so quick. The only reason this wasn't quick is because I have untreated ADHD and a motor mouth, right? Like if I had my mouth shut, we could have gotten this done in 5 minutes and then the kids could be back to watching Blippi, you know, and we would be eating delicious food. That's kind of the point. So hopefully you guys got something that you can take away in that vein to know that, you know, there are no rules in cooking. There are guidelines. There are things we should do. This dish could have Thai flavors in it. This dish could have Hispanic flavors in it. This dish could have, I don't know, Icelandic flavors in it, whatever you would like, right? Whatever your heritage is, whatever floats your boat, you can really put into any kind of food. So I really hope that you guys don't buy your next cookbook and read the recipes. I'd like you to buy your next cookbook and read everything else that person has to say, because that's the stuff you're going to learn from. Cool. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much.
I love that.
Was so much
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. It was super fun. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm gonna log out now.